Mount Vernon off the back. We're going to talk about 4 Extra and his MMA debut. Now, oftentimes, when you hear about 4 Extra's enemies or ops talk about their street fight or county jail experience with him, it's often said that he would be grabbing if, let's say, he didn't get the best of these exchanges. And you want to know something about that? As somebody who analyzes MMA, also somebody that analyzes the hip-hop world, the gang world of California on top of it, I think this is great for 4 Extra. Now look, most people who don't understand fighting from a mixed martial arts perspective, they don't really understand how valuable it is to have wrestling skills on your back pocket. It's really valuable because the minute you're getting punched, kicked, and all of that, you got to have a defensive instinct in order to dive in and shoot for a takedown, clinch up, grab up, which is why many of his enemies or ops sort of call him a professional wrestler or a grabber. Because oftentimes the people in the streets who don't understand MMA or don't understand the value of being a well-rounded martial artist is that they only see the punching as the most effective way of martial arts. And again, it kind of goes back to casual fans, right? Even longtime hardcore fans, whenever they see a fight and it gets taken down to the ground, what happens? They often go and say, well, you know what, this fight is boring, or this fight is no good, and this and that. Yeah, but the reality is fighting is fighting. So again, we're not here to talk about the cultural norms of what a street fight should look like or how people's perception of what an exciting fight should be, but rather looking at 4 Extra going into mixed martial arts. Now, is this a good idea? I gotta tell you, I heard a few stories where he got into it with this rapper named Jap 5, right? He's an LA rapper, was also a boxer. He had boxing experience. And I'm here to tell you why I think this MMA experience for 4 Extra is going to go really well. Also, depending on what type of matchups he has going on. Now, going back to Jap 5, he beats up Jap 5, who's a boxer, who's also a rapper, but was a boxer. At the time, he didn't even know this guy was going to blow up to be a rapper, let alone know that he was a boxer or had any experience whatsoever in training whatever it is that he's training at. So the reason why I bring that up is because if you fight a boxer and you don't know what you're doing, you're going to get hurt. Most guys that street fight boxers are often going to get hurt if they don't have any other skills. Now, of course, I did see one video of Ryan Garcia in Venice Beach, I believe a couple of years ago, where he got into it with some random dude on the street, and then the dude threatened to throw kicks at him. He threw a couple of kicks, and the next thing you know, Ryan Garcia backed down because he thought it was going to be a boxing match. Look, if you're going to beat up a boxer, you have to be a very athletic person in a street fight. Because otherwise, if you're just a normal person and you run across a boxer, you're going to get hurt. Not 4 Extra. According to the stories that we've heard, obviously, these are street fights that have no videos attached to it in any kind of degree. Although he did have an audio where he was beating on someone and he had basically recorded this person screaming for mercy, right? And then on top of that, just sort of insulting him using his own gang vernaculars, right? The opposition I'm talking about. So, will he do good? I think he will, because it really is going to depend on the matchup, right? Now, I do hear that he's trying to fight UFC roster member right now, Cedric Dumas. Cedric Dumas fights out of Florida. I believe he fights in the same team as Philip Rowe. You know, the Fresh Prince, Philip Rowe. So he's from that squad. He's a very good fighter, at least for a UFC level right now. Obviously, Cedric Dumas right now is not a top 15. He's not a top 10 fighter, but he's making his way up there, and he's obviously skilled enough to really do serious damage to this guy. Now, look, Wack 100 mentioned something to the effect that, hey, listen, I don't want you fighting this guy in MMA. There's just a lot going on. He says, well, what are you talking about? This is literally what I do. And you know what? I got to tell you, man, I find it really strange that in the LA gang world, there's not enough people that train mixed martial arts, considering that there's a lot of big MMA gyms down in SoCal. Now, maybe boxing is a big thing for the African-American community because it is a sport that they're heavily entrenched in. It's a sport where many of the gyms you will find in the hood and in their communities. So, yes, they are going to have boxing gyms available, but MMA gyms are so prominent in LA that it really surprises me that not enough so-called gang members go and train this particular sport that, in all honesty, is really made for gangbanging. At least a head-up, fade gangbanging. Now, what happened when Wack 100 tried to sway him away from MMA? 4Extra said, no way. I want MMA. I want to do it all. I want the kicks. I want the punches. I want the takedowns. I want the clinches. I even want the submissions. Now, right now, he's talking about training with Rampage Jackson. Is this a good idea? I think it's quite limited to train with Rampage Jackson, in my humble opinion. But AJ McKee trained with Rampage Jackson, and look how well-rounded AJ is. I think that Rampage, even though and by the way, he's got a boxing match coming up with Wack 100's homie. By the way, shout-outs to Wack 100, right? Aside from all the controversies that are going on with him, all these allegations and all of that, he still rises above it and finds a different lane. Obviously, music producer, music mogul, ran with Suge Knight, but now has an opportunity to get into the fight world. With 4Extras and with Christopher Lovejoy 600, who's a rolling 60s Crip, who also fought boxing under the Eddie Hearn Matchroom banner. And with that, he's going to get him to fight Rampage Jackson. So there's a connection there right now with Wack 100 in the middle of it and Adam 22. And even Wack 100 said on their latest podcast with Adam 22, he said, listen, all I need you to do is just do what you do best, and that's promote. Because Adam said that he didn't know anybody in LA that was a formidable MMA trainer, even though there's a lot of MMA gyms. And even though Adam has delved himself into some jiu-jitsu training in the past, I don't know if he's tight with any of those gyms in that kind of matter to bring somebody in and trust them that they would give 4Extras the best possible opportunity to be the best fighter that he can be. Here's a couple of things that I also need to mention, considering 4Extra, right? A lot of people are going to have skepticism about this. They're going to look at him as, well, you're Kimbo Slice 2.0, and you really don't have that much skills because you don't really have any experience. That's what the naysayers are going to say. As somebody who understands MMA, and maybe I'm a little bit biased because, hey, you know, I like the dude. You know what I mean? I think he's awesome. I think he's a great personality. I like the fact that he never backs down from anybody. But this is a whole different level when it comes to MMA, fighting athletes, fighting people that train for this, that are ready to kill based on the fact that they've trained hours and hours and hours and peaking their bodies to its optimal performance. What I wanted to say about that is 4Extra is a different type of gang member. He's not Kimbo Slice. Kimbo Slice was built like a bodybuilder. 4Extras is built like a legitimate athlete. The guy doesn't smoke, doesn't drink, doesn't do drugs, because he says that he needs to be coherent 24/7 in order to mitigate any danger that is around him wherever he's at. So already he's got a good basis behind him. Now, the only thing that remains to be seen is if he is willing and able to take on this MMA training on a daily basis to the point where he may want to quit if the training gets too hard. But I don't imagine seeing that because, once again, the basis of this guy, he doesn't drink, smoke, do any drugs, lives a very healthy life, and he's built like an athlete. Kimbo Slice was a bodybuilder who fought people in the streets. 4Extras is a gang member who got into a lot of fights with people in a very unlimited fashion, meaning that they could either punch you, kick you, basically MMA. So what I'm saying is this, to the conclusion of this video. Do I think that he's going to have a very good MMA career? I think so, if you have the right set of opponents set up. Okay, I don't think Cedric Dumas would be a good idea, but then again, you never know. You don't know what this guy is capable of. For all we know, we could be looking at a new Francis Ngannou. But again, you never know. That's why they call it the theater of the unknown, right? That's what makes all of this fight stuff entertaining, because you never know what's going to happen. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next video, inshallah. Off the back on Vernon Avenue.